So welcome to the session. The name of the session, let me share the screen, as Ahana already said, is on digital detox, mental well-being, and the idea of AI that we are all talking about today, right? Okay. Yes, you're audible. Great. If I miss out on the chat box, Ahana or one of you, you can just tell me, okay, that there are some questions and XYZ, and I will stop and I'll answer because I may not see the chat box while I'm speaking.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Before I officially and formally go ahead with the bhashan, I want to know from the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. I'm not sure if we have a Gen Alpha. Do we have a Gen Alpha in this session or only Gen Zs? For that, you have to know the age group of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Do we have Gen Zs in this session? I'm checking the chat box. So I will need you to either raise your, okay, yeah. So we have one Gen Z only. Okay, multiple Gen Zs. Done. Very good. Do we have any Gen Alpha in the session? Gen Alpha? No? One Gen Alpha still? Okay, fine. I want to know from you all, why do you think at today's day and age, a session like this, focusing on mental well-being, digital detox, is even important to be conducted on a Saturday out of all days at 3 o'clock, and we are actually sitting here to discuss this? Why do you think it's important? I'm going to see your responses on the chat box, and then I'm going to go ahead with the session. Does that sound good? See, it's so difficult for me to do online sessions because I'm such a pro at conducting sessions in classrooms and having people next to me, like seeing them in lifetime, verbal cues, non-verbal cues. So I'm not seeing people and just assuming that people are actually listening to you and responding to you gets a little difficult for me, but we're going to try our best. Why do you think a session like this is important? Can I have people write there on chat box? Health is important to survive, what we need and how we need due to influence of technology. Excellent points. Instant gratification, wonderful. Knowledge, integration, everyone is busy with all problems. Very good. Mental health issues. Okay. Absolutely, right? Very true. Very true. There are too many reasons that you all have written, right? Multiple reasons, and all correct, right? All correct. The reason that we are even sitting here on a Saturday at 3 o'clock and trying to understand what this means is the reason because we are all in a hyper connected digital world. I'm sure you have heard this word way too many times by now. We are in a world where we are living on online spaces much more than offline spaces. Right? We have an online persona, an online community, an online family that most of us seem to rely on more than the people that are actually next to us in our real houses or real spaces in real time. And in this session, we want to understand why is there such a heavy dependence on social media and now AI, Chat GPT, what do you have that AI, Gemini, DeepSeek AI, and I don't know, multiple other variations that are coming up. Why do humans need to rely on artificial intelligence when there is actual human intelligence present? What is it in our environment that forces us to rely on these digital devices and online spaces rather than relying on people and humans? Is something we will want to discuss. Okay, so this has to be a two-way communication. How? I would want you all to thoroughly use the chat box, write your thoughts, write your views, ask questions, because it's boring for both you and me, man. I mean, imagine only listening to me for the next 1 hour. You're like, oh my God, I'm already so bored. You don't want to be bored, right? So you're going to engage in as many ways as you can through chat box, questions, raising hands, and I'm going to do my part of speaking. Okay? Look at this screen. I particularly got the screenshot before I actually came for the session. I was doing some study of Gen Z and what are the latest lingos, slangs, trends in regards to Gen Z, and I got these very interesting findings. Do you all agree with any of these findings? Do you think it makes sense? Look at each. There are actually 4 news clipping. Okay. Do you think any of these make sense to you? Can you agree or disagree with any of them? You agree? Okay. Anvi says I agree. All right. Okay. Everyone agrees. Oh, wow. The second one is very relatable. Not possible. Okay. Someone said not possible. Agreed. Wow. I love it. I always love Gen Zs in action when we are studying. Amazing. Especially love and hate relationship. It's odd but understandable. Absolutely, Anandini. I fully agree. It's odd but understandable. This is the latest statistics. This is the latest news report that we have right now when it comes to Gen Z, and Gen Alpha is also creeping in. Why? Because The oldest Gen Alpha as of today, if I'm not mistaken, is 14 years or 13. And the youngest Gen Z is 14. And the oldest Gen Z is 28. So Gen Alpha, Gen Z creeping in. And this is the result we have right now for very obvious reasons. Okay, that we will discuss eventually. I have a slide that talks about stress. Stress is one thing that we all get out of our personal lives, professional lives, love lives, work life. You name it, and people are stressed. The cortisol levels for all of us are at an all-time high in the world we live in today. But studies have shown that Gen Z, out of all the generations that has ever walked the face of Earth, is the most anxious generation that we have as compared to any other generation. Okay? And there are multiple reasons for it. I mean, I'm a millennial. I'm a 34-year-old millennial, right? And I have my views. I have my views, and I'm going to give and share my views as to why I think your generation is one of the most anxious generation there ever has been. Look at this stats. I just typed Gen Z and anxiety, and Google gave me 40 searches. I'm like, relax, Google. I get the drift. You don't have to give me so many searches. But Google is like, Moitri, padho. Aap padho aur dusro ko bhi padhao. And I was like, wow, this is just the screenshot from the first search page of Google. There was 40 more pages just reaffirming the same fact that Gen Z is anxious, Gen Z is stressed out, Gen Z is burnt out. The rates of depression, anxiety, and suicides among this cohort is one of the highest. All right. And I have 6 very important core reasons that I want to share with you. You can then tell me if you agree, disagree, and why. I'll share with you my 6 core reasons, and then I would want to know from the Gen Zs themselves, what are their thoughts? Okay. The first reason why I think that Gen Z is termed as one of the most anxious generation that we have right now is because of the pandemic. Why pandemic? If you remember the pandemic that we had 5.5 years ago when it started, you remember which age you were? Right now, are you what? 16, 15, 17, 18? Go back -5. Think of the age group that you were in. Whether or not you have studied psychology, you know that, yes, thank you. As a 9 to 10-year-old, you know that that is the age group between 9 to 15, 9 to 14, when you are having mental, physical, cognitive, emotional development in your body and minds. At that time, you saw the world completely change from offline to online, people losing their jobs, people losing their lives, people losing money, people being fired and hired overnight. You were introduced to the word uncertainty like never before. You did not understand if faith and trust ever meant anything in that age you were growing up. Maybe some of you were lucky to not see that much of loss of life and death and pain and joblessness, but most people weren't. Right? Pandemic came with its own set of challenges. When you could barely understand the world, you had to deal with the grappling fact of loss, either by understanding it from your own family or seeing it through your friends, relatives, or on the TV if you are very lucky. Second, the rising standard of living, the rising cost of living, and the rising cost of housing. All of us right now are attending webinars, seminars, trying to build our CV so that when we finish our schooling, we want to go to this college, that master's. But are we sure that the amount of money we are putting into our education, we will actually get back the kind of job and the salary that we deserve and desire? Can any of us be very sure of that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Look at the rate of joblessness right now in India and outside. Your friends and seniors who have actually gone to countries like UK, US, Canada, and Australia, you'll see how many of them, a fair share of them, are struggling with finding decent jobs. People are struggling to pay back the loan they took for academic purposes abroad. The kind of jobs one may be getting, it may not be enough, or it may not be the kind that they want, with paychecks absolutely not according to what they thought that they would get after spending that much amount of money on education. And that we see more today than ever before. Think of buying houses, think of buying property, skyrocketing. That may not be an immediate concern for you at this age, but for the older Gen Zs and millennials, we can see how that is. You're like, I'm putting that much of energy, money onto education. What is the return of investment like? I don't know. Third, work-life balance myth. right? You have seen people before you, your previous generations, millennials, Gen Y, baby boomers, slogging and slogging, being burnt out, having all kinds of mental health and physical health issues, but wearing their burnout as a badge of honor. You have heard what Narayan Murthy has said. People should work 80 hours a week. You have heard what Vice President of L&T said. Why do people even stay at home? I'm quoting, huh? L&T Vice President said, if I could, I would make my employees even work on a Sunday. What do you do the whole day? Stare at your wife? This statement is problematic on multiple levels. Bhavesh Agarwal, co-founder Ola, said that work-life balance is a Western concept. When you see this and hear people who are in positions of power speaking like this, you wonder, tomorrow when I go into the job market, will there be any meaning of the word sleep, rest, eat, have time for yourself, pursue your hobbies, be with your loved ones? Or do I have to hustle till I die? Cardiologists today in India and worldwide are saying that people are dying of heart attack as young as 28, 29. In a young age, people are dying of cardiac arrest. What could be the reason? They are doing yoga, meditation, eating clean, doing marathons, triathlons, everything that you name it, checkbox. Why has the cardiac arrest increased for people of 25, 26? The hustle culture that we are trying to understand has gotten into every cell of our body and it's taking over us. So the question to ask is, I get it. People are like, hustle, hustle. But if you're not alive, if you're not living and you're dead, what does hustle mean then? You have to at least be alive to enjoy the fruit of your success. But with the death rates coming down to 28, 29 and people dying as cardiac arrest at 30, 35, do we have to relook at what we mean by hustle and probably change the ways we work and live? Fourth, the LGBTQI plus QIA plus community. A lot of you in this session may or may not know the full form of the acronym, but your generation is a generation that actively and vocally speaks up about the rights and the correct treatment about this community. While we were growing up, we were told everyone is equal, treat everyone with love and respect. You know, all Indians are your brothers and sisters and things like that. But as you grew up, you were like, no, I don't think so. What we've been taught at home and what we see in the real world is very different. People are treated differently on the way they look and the amount of money they have, the way they sound, of every physical characteristics and non-physical characteristics in terms of caste, class, creed, gender, sexuality. People are being mistreated. And you've seen that. Even if you have not personally experienced, you would have seen, read, and heard about it. And that is something your generation is actively and vocally speaking up against. It may not be the people in this session per se, but that is what the majority of the cohort of Gen Z is also doing. Fifth, climate crisis. One of the things that your generation also takes importance is about climate crisis. People are like, work hard, then you can enjoy your life. You might be like, Moitri, what will I do working hard if I don't even know if this earth is going to actually be? Look at the weather changes. Look at the extreme climatic cold and hot conditions, off-timing weathers. It's all because of global warming and climate crisis. So is there any point, the amount of existential questions you'll ask yourself, what is my value? What is my purpose? Is it worth living in a world like this, in an earth like this? Because of the way the earth is right now. Climate crisis going down to political instability, war, terrorism, and I don't think I need to even stress further on that. You and I both know what's happening in and out of India. You switch on the news and you will get a bad news. As we are talking right now and discussing in this session, there could be a country far away where probably there is not going to be a single human left because of continuous bombing, firing, and war. I'm not taking any names, but if you and I have watched the news, you know what I'm talking about. This dystopian idea about talking about life, where there's actually continuous death and dying happening in one part of the world while we can sit here and talk, is something that Gen Zs are like, what does this life even mean? What are we doing? Like, why are we here? Last but not the least, the boon and bane of social media and AI, which is the core of today's discussion. We love to hate, we hate to love. Is it Gen Z and Gen Alpha or is it everyone? Is something we want to understand more. Right? Do you agree of the things that I said? Do you agree? Is there anything else that you think I should add to this that I haven't said, or something that you agree even more? Because usually when I take this session, offline, I'm like, students are stopping me, we are having question answer, we are like raising our hands and having discussion. But like I said, this is a limitation of online interaction. I still want it to be as lively as possible, because I'm imagining as if I can see all of you, even though I can't, right? I can barely see your names and your initials, can't even see your faces on your, tag. But does it make sense? Absolutely. Relationship with other people my age. Okay, okay. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Someone said I didn't cover the relationship bit, right? I think this was the slide that I usually start with. What stresses you out? Okay. There are multiple things written here, and then I say, do you agree with everything, or is there something that I have missed out as to what stresses you out? So let's say, come on. You can see this slide. Now you tell me, do you agree with everything that is written here? Or is there something that I have missed out that you think is something that really stresses the Gen Zs or the Gen Alphas nowadays? Or everyone who's in this session, the 135 of you? Peer pressure, aesthetics, okay. Uncertainty scares us the most. Social pressure, absolutely. Insecurities, very good, very good. Not being enough, family issues, absolutely. Being bold, fear of being judged, family trauma, generational trauma, FOMO, rat race, competition, hustle culture, parental pressure, self pressure. What is meant by changing in the slide? What was the question that someone is trying to ask? I don't understand. Changing what? Sorry. Someone has written what is meant by changing. More of written studies. Okay. Any question we have, we'll take it at the end. Okay. Right now we will have discussion. Questions, we will just take it at the end in the last 15 minutes. Not being enough. Okay. Being an example. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Being a role model. Be better. Be there for someone. They look for some, just show off. They don't change themselves by them. They look for some patriarchy, constant pressure on academics. Excellent. Excellent. Right? Very, very good. Instagram. Parents not agreeing for the subject you want, failing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very, very good. Absolutely. There are 1 million things that stresses us out. And after this slide, I was supposed to show this slide that is true. Gen Zs indeed have 1 million things to worry about. And studies have shown why they are indeed one of the most, stressed out and anxious generation that we have. How many of you, and I want to raise of hands, have watched the show on Netflix called Adolescence that was released on 13th March 2025? It's a show called Adolescence. Okay, great. 12, 13, 14, 15. Quite a few people have watched. Okay, okay, great. For the ones who have not watched, I would suggest that you go and watch this show. Please do yourselves a favor and watch this show. Okay. A quick 2-line gist on what the show is about. This show is about a 13-year-old boy called Jamie who murders his classmate, who's a girl, by brutally stabbing her in the parking lot 7 times. Okay? The director and producer of this show has made this show based on real life events that they saw happening in their hometown for the last couple of months. That 9-year-old boy murdering 10-year-old girl, 8-year-old boy doing this to a 11-year-old girl, XYZ. Based on that, based on extremely real events, this show was made. It got critically acclaimed, critical recognition across. In fact, the government and the Prime Minister of UK made this show as compulsory and mandatory viewing in every high secondary school in the UK in the presence of teachers and counselors, so that once students have finished watching the show, they can have a healthy discussion in the classroom. The reason why Jamie murders Katie in the parking lot, Jamie is a 13-year-old boy who murders his classmate called Katie, because she has made him feel, okay, less of a boy. I can't even say man, right? He's a 13-year-old boy. Less of a boy. There were cases of cyberbullying. There were cases of her putting certain emojis that actually gave rise to the incel culture. What is an incel culture? Trying to talk about involuntary celibacy, where men somehow feel there's a lack of sexual prowess. The boys as young as 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 feel the need to prove their sexual prowess and macho-ness at that age to girls. His self-respect was hurt. He felt humiliated by Katie's behavior online and offline. He felt rejected and dejected. And what did he do about it? He brutally murdered Katie by stabbing her 7 times. This is not a one-off case. This is a case that happens in every part of the world, every part of the society, but only some cases get highlighted. My talk and my thought when I talk about shows like this and what really happens is trying to understand a culture of mental health. What happens to someone when they feel so strongly humiliated, embarrassed, and rejected, where they think that the only way they can deal with it is by murdering someone else, even when you are a 13-year-old boy coming from a decent family? The director was asked from the show, what do you think is the scariest thing a teen can do today? And he said, youngsters sitting with their phones at hours on a stretch inside their rooms is the scariest thing that can happen, because you may come from the best of families, best of relatives, but you don't know what someone is doing in that online world and who they are in that online world. They may be somebody next to you in the dining table, but in that online world, they are someone else. Why is there such a need for us, when we are not feeling good, when we are not feeling ourselves, when we are feeling bad, that we can't sit with our heavy feelings and emotions and process them, but we run to Instagram, but we run to TikTok to have a heavy sense of distraction? Why? Why do we rely on social media apps like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok so much? Avoiding reality, Kratika says, because it diverts validation technology. It is distracting. Why do you think when you're feeling bad, my dear students, all 135, 148 of you, when you're feeling bad and you're not feeling good, why do you think it is so difficult for you to actually sit with your feeling and process it rather than jumping on Instagram to go and see likes and shares and likes and shares? Why is Instagram, what is Instagram giving you that you can't give yourself right now? Instant dopamine? Absolutely. The addictive cycle of dopamine, the addictive cycle of escaping reality, of distracting from reality. But how bad does someone's reality have to be that you want to escape from it and not deal with it? Entire idea of addiction, right? You and I may have watched shows on Amazon Prime or Z5 on Netflix, where the makers of Facebook, Instagram have said that we have devised these apps to make them as addictive as possible. That was the aim. They wanted you to be hooked to it. One like, one share, the photo didn't get liked, delete that photo, put another photo. Is the notification coming? Is the notification not coming? Did someone comment? Keep checking, keep checking, keep checking. And there is no end to it. Be it your Amazon, be it your Flipkart, be it your Zepto, be it your Blinkit, be it your dating apps. Now you are not happy with someone on a dating app. Next, next, next. You swipe right and left on people. You swipe right and left on food on Zomato, on clothes on Amazon, Myntra. The idea is, what is it in our lives? What is it in our heads and hearts that we find it so difficult to deal with that we have taken complete dependence on these apps? Because we know these apps were designed so that we get addicted to them. Mark Zuckerberg and every other founder out there has said it. I have developed Facebook so that people get strongly addicted to it. Right? And that is the idea of mental health culture I want to talk about. Do you think it's possible that when people were growing up in their younger ages, the kind of families they had, the kind of relationship they saw between their mom and dad, the kind of people they were growing up with inside their schools and outside in their neighborhoods, in their vicinities, also help them shape the way they look at the world and themselves and their bodies? Right? And if that is the case, probably a lot of us can go back to childhood and see, hey, did I get the love I think I deserve from my parents? Did I see a happy childhood? Did I see a happy relationship between my mom and dad, and a happy sibling relationship between my sibling? Did I have a functional family growing up? XYZ? Typical questions that a therapist will most likely ask you when you go to a therapy session to understand what it means to sit with your feelings and emotions rather than jumping onto an artificial intelligently app. Right? It's important for me, the idea and the culture of mental health is very important that has gotten to where we are today. You and I love Instagram so much. You're like Instagram, whenever I don't feel good, I'm going to go to Instagram. But then suddenly Instagram shows you a picture of someone you absolutely don't like, having the gala time, swimming in a pool, sipping a juice, drink. And you're like, Instagram, man, I liked you and that's why I came to you. And you're showing me algorithms of people I don't like. How is that fair? So you get angry and you shut down Instagram for what? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes before you reopen Instagram again and say, okay, Instagram, let's do better this time. Show me algorithms that prove my bias. 2 minutes, very good. Absolutely. And next time when you open Instagram, you're like, let's hope the algorithm is in my favor this time. Or any other app per se, right? The talk we are trying to have right now is what is there in these apps that is not there in our real life. And if we know it, what still stops us from doing that alternative? Okay, I want us to answer this question. Okay, I want you all to give me one reason. How does my digital life impact my mental health positively and negatively? I want you all to write one reason how your digital life impacts you all positively and negatively. Addiction is negative. Okay, anything positive about social media at all? It makes you aware. Okay, positively. Whenever something happens, just education, comparison is negative, education is positive, inspiration is positive. You learn new things from people, aware of what happens globally. Addiction is negative. Staying connected, motivation, therapy, eye defect because of digital life. Yeah, physical issues, mental and physical health issues because of depending on your screens 24/7. Okay, great. In what ways, my dear students, do you think social media affects your self-image and self-worth? Can we take 2 minutes? You don't have to write down immediately. Okay, let's pause. Okay, let's not type anything. Take a minute. Let's pause. Let's pause. Let's pause. Let's take a breath. Let's pause. Let's take a breath. Let's think for 2 minutes. Don't write the first thing that comes to your mind. I want you to think a bit deeper. I'm sure there are a lot of answers that you already have, but I want you to think a bit more critically and a bit more in depth. Okay? When you use social media or any other platforms online, what happens to your self-image and self-worth? Think of the last time you used and you weren't happy. How do you think that made you feel? Inferior? You felt inferior? Okay. You question yourself, you feel insecure. You think everyone's life is better than yours. Sometimes you feel like a loser and you think, what are you doing in life at all? You feel inspired, guilty. So it really depends on what content you are following and who are you following and what is your intention on getting on the app. It's very important to understand when you open Instagram that you ask yourself, or any other app, okay, I'm just using Instagram for the ease of access, that why am I on this app right now? What does this app give me that I can't give myself? Right? Very important to understand that. What boundaries or habits do you think you want to create to have a better balance between your real life and digital life? What are the boundaries that you think you would actually want to work on so that you are not fully succumbing to the digital life? What is it that you think? Time limitation. Okay, I know there are certain apps that can actually track how many hours you've spent on Instagram, Facebook, and XYZ, right? Screen time. Yeah, you can tap your screen time and you're like, oh shit, today I spent 8 hours on Instagram. Tomorrow I'm going to make it lesser in XYZ. Throw your phones, Mohawk. Wow, great. Yes. If only we could all just throw our phones, problems will be out of the window. Okay. Using specific apps, knowing why you use those apps, understanding the intention behind before going on that app, right? Who are you following right now? What is the reason of you following that person? Asking yourself these questions before mindlessly following and comparing can be a starting point. Look at this. Look at this, okay? This was taken a few days. This news was published in a platform called The Mint a week or 10 days back. See this. Gen Z is touching grass to counter brain rot. Does the Gen Z in this class, in this session, do that? Do you think you all are touching some grass, moving away from the digital world and going to the forest, nature, walking, making real friends, talking to real people? No, no, no. No one's touching grass. All we are doing, we are on phones 24/7. If no, if people have written no, maybe they can try turning it into a yes. It is a slow journey, but it can be an eventual journey. Going for a walk, absolutely. Nature studies have shown that nature can reduce your cortisol levels by 50%. If you spend half an hour walking, nature walking for 3 days in a week, you will have lower levels of cortisol level. And this goes for everyone, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, Gen X, baby boomer, everyone. Very, very critical, right? Very, very critical. Look at the stats, my dear Gen Zs, look at the stats. Here they say that Gen Zs on average spent 9 hours. I think like maybe I wrote it wrong because I'm like, I don't think they're spending 9 hours. I think they're close to spending 19 hours on their phones. And the amount of Gen Zs, the cohort of Gen Zs in India that we have right now, they seem to be more strongly addicted to their phones across as compared to people from different sections. Average screen time in India is 7.3 hours per day, exceeding the global average, right? And it's things that you all said. What is the good pros and what are the cons? You all were just talking about the good and bad, right? Very, very critical. Very, very critical. I want us to play a game, but before that, I want to talk about AI a little more, right? Look at this. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? Millennials and Gen Z have turned to AI for emotional support. They find it more effective than pets. I always knew that humans would not be able to rely on humans so much because of multiple reasons. Anandini is like, I can confirm. I agree. I agree. Some people agree, some don't agree. Mostly I am seeing in this group, people are agreeing to this study. Why do you think that people are turning to AI rather than pets, plants, or therapy? What can AI give you that pets, plants, and therapy cannot give you? Come on, let me hear it from you from the chat box. Faster information, trust issues, does not judge us. We can trust them, emotional support, validation, words of affirmation, instant solution. Nana, secrecy, trustworthy, free therapy, non-judgmental, empathy. Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Thank you for your points. I know a lot of points are coming in and I may not be able to kind of cover all of them, but it is so critical to see that today, my generation, I'm a millennial, right? Like I said, a 34-year-old millennial, and your generation, and if there are Gen Alpha, I'm sure even Gen Alpha is turning to AI much more than both of us combined. Gen Alpha will be like, we are the only making AI friends. We have given up on humans altogether. AI can form that non-judgmental basis. Of course, the validation points that most of you have written, it's also an extremely negative side of AI where they agree with everything that you say, which in psychology we call confirmation bias. वो हाँ में हाँ ना में ना करते हैं, so they don't give you an accurate information. They tell you what you want to hear, which is not a great spot for growth. If that person is only agreeing with you every time you say yes or saying no every time you say no, that is not the best way to go ahead, right? But we are like, hey, AI is there for us when we need them. They don't question, they don't cry, they don't complain, they don't judge. They keep my information confidential. What's not to like in AI? I have had people tell me that, right? But the idea to also think right now is, for sure, especially in a context like India, we're talking about mental health and other sensitive issues is such a taboo where you talk to one person and you don't trust if they're actually going to keep it confidential or if your information will actually be spread out to the world. Taking that trust in AI is what has made us, AI seekers. In fact, there is a term, my dear students, that have come up that says about how future generations will have legit relationship with AI, and that's called AI relationships. Instead of relationships, it's called AI relationships. So now it makes us wonder that what is the where are we heading with this? What is the world going to look like? Because if you have read about the pros of AI, I'm sure you have also read about the cons of AI. Confirmation bias is at an all-time high. AI like ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT 4.0, will tell you things that you want to hear. How the algorithm works. It confirms all your biases. It does not make you challenge your thoughts. It does not make you challenge your views. It does not technically help you become a better person. But it is there when you need it. It is not judging you. It is not taunting you. It is not questioning you or making you feel small of a person. That probably the humans around us aren't doing the same. What do you think the future of this is going to be like, my dear students? Memory zero. Someone wrote, it doesn't care about you. Yeah, yes, exactly, Ratna. I saw so many news where a woman married a chatbot, man married a chatbot. Humans won't even use their brains. Exactly, exactly. If this is not scary, I don't know what is. My dear students, at this moment, I'm going to pause and I want you to watch your video that I have actually shared on the chat box. But I'm going to, 1 minute. But maybe that message has gone away. Yeah. I want you all to watch this. Okay, right now. Watch this. It's only not right now, in 5 minutes. I'll tell you to watch this. And then I want you all to. Okay. Not now, not now, in another 5 minutes. And then I want you to share your thoughts with me after having watched this video. Okay. That's critical. Before that, I want us to play a very interesting game. Okay. Put on your thinking caps. Okay. Everyone, all your fingers on the typing board. Okay. What is the one app you could live without for a week? Come on, tell me. What is the one app you could live without for a week? Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, school app. No, no, no. Let's not do school app. Right now, when we talk about apps, those are the kind of apps that we actually go to when we are not feeling good or when we are feeling good. No one goes to their school app. YouTube, Snapchat, WhatsApp, none. Oh, no one, no one. Okay. Instagram, Snapchat. Great. How do you feel after spending 3+ hours on your phone? Batao. How do you feel after spending three? Guilty, exhausted, terrible, guilty, regret, unproductive, drained out, exhausted, drained. Okay. What is your favorite offline activity? Somebody once told me my favorite offline activity is charging my phone. Please don't say charging my phone, okay? Okay, swimming, reading, tennis, badminton, writing, baking, studying, playing instruments, art, walking, swimming, talking to parents, sitting, guitar, singing. Excellent. Excellent. Have you tried a digital detox? How long did that last? Is what I want to know. 3 weeks. That's good. Someone told me once 5 minutes. 7 hours. Digital detox. What's that? Oh, great. 1 to 2 hours. Lasted a month. Full week. 3 hours. 2 minutes. Okay, great. I love the honesty. Please keep the honesty coming. Okay, please keep the honesty coming. How do you balance screen time and mental health in today's world? How do you balance screen time and mental health in today's world? Fitness, journaling. I can't. Okay, my detox happens when I'm in school. Sticking to a routine, going for a walk. I can't. Someone is saying, no, can't control my usage of social media. Let my health adapt. Nature, sleeping. Great, great. What's your go-to activity when you're bored beside your phone? Not your phone. What's your go-to when you're bored, when you don't have your phone? Football, sports, dancing, talking, friends, going out, sleeping, running, annoying others. Oh, I love that honesty. Whoever wrote annoying others. Very good. Even I like annoying others most of the time. Listening to music, gossiping with mama while cooking. That's amazing. That's so cute. All right. All right. Doodling. How does, okay, let's take a minute and think about the last 3 questions. Okay. Let's take a minute and let's think about the last 3 questions. How does social media actually affect your mood? I know it depends on what you're following, whom you're following, which time of the day you're following, but how does it affect? On an average, if you have to look back of your life, 15 years or 16 years of your life. How did social media make you feel, my dear students? Okay, depends on the algorithm. Happy, depressed, not on social media, excellent. Someone who's not on social media, very, very good. Loneliness, distraction, nervous. It distanced you from real people in your real life, guilty, depressed, weakness. Okay, thank you for the honesty, FOMO, anger, anxiety. Not in social media, okay, very good. That's very good. Okay, okay, no social media except YouTube. Okay, okay, sad, no confidence. All right, all right. Okay. What time of the day do you use the social media the most? Night, evening, nights, evening, nights. Because first half you're usually in the school doing your school work. So when you come back or whenever you get time post your school work, you're on social media. All right, all right. And you're on social media for a very long time. Do you actually use social media for such a long time that it actually becomes difficult for you to get up the next morning and get ready for school and start working? No? Have you all found yourself using social media till 2, 3, 4 a.m. and next morning when you have to get up, you're feeling groggy, head is aching, you feel like throwing up, you're not feeling your best self because you were awake for late night? Okay, okay. So you're aware that this happens, your body and mind does not feel good when you're spending too much time on social media. You're very, very aware. When you think you're so aware of the pros and cons of social media and what it does to your mind and body and brain, why do you think you're still on it and you still can't get off it? When you know everything around social media and how it's making you addictive, what do you, yeah, addiction, okay. And how do you think you can deal with this addiction, my dear students? Giving your friends no idea, no idea. Delete it. Okay, okay. What's all right, fair, fair, very fair, right? And I know going cold turkey and not saying like I'm going to throw my phone, I'm not going to use it, I'll delete all apps. Been there, done that. And if it was so easy and possible for all of us, we would do it. Clearly, it's not as easy as we like to think, but we can definitely take small steps. I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start somewhere. You know the science behind addiction. You know that it gives you a dopamine boost. You get a like, you wait for another like, you get one notification, you wait for another notification, and that loop doesn't end. You're happy, Instagram. You're sad, Instagram. And you don't know how that's playing up with your mood 24/7. Real people in real time, in real settings are getting avoided because you are so busy in that online life. All of us. This is actually beyond Gen Z also. Of course, much more for Gen Z and Gen Alpha because you all have grown up as digital natives with phones, laptops, iPads, iPhones on your hands. Gen Alpha is the one and only generation that is a purely has grown up from the time when they were pacifiers. Parents would put phone next to them so that they would stop crying. Parents would put phone next to them so that they would eat. Parents would put the music of phone so that they'll sleep. Gen Alpha is that generation, but a very close second is Gen Z. Digital natives. Growing up, you saw phones, laptops, tablets, and that's all you saw. And you made a very comfortable world there, but right now it's not serving you that purpose. And you are aware, you are saying addiction, you are saying dopamine boost. You know that you go for that like and share, and there's brain rot. There is stupid content, but we can't help it. We are still watching it. There are doom scrolling happening, bed rotting happening, spending hours and hours on beds doing nothing, just lying down and watching social media that is actually not helping you gain any information, any awareness. Brain rotting, bed rotting, you name it, and the trend is there. With so much awareness, the question then becomes what are the small steps that we can do in our day to day lives, very genuinely? Because you know that if you don't, the future ahead is not looking very bright and shiny. And you and me are extremely aware of that, right? Of all the images that you see here right now, my dear students, are there any numbers that you particularly do? Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. Very good, very good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you all are doing some of these, if not all, and at least trying to do some more than others. I've also heard that Gen Z is actually bringing back the trend of crocheting, right? A lot of you, do you all crochet? Does anyone in this group crochets? Because I heard crocheting as a hobby is really making a comeback because of Gen Z. So thanks to you, you all are making a huge comeback from there. Knitting, I love it. That's excellent. What are the other hobbies that you all do that is not written here, but that you all actually do? I would love to know that. embroidery, excellent, mandala art, amazing, taekwondo, painting, cricket, journaling, dance, mehendi, singing, reading, sketching, resin art, amazing, baking, watercolors, poetries, reading, amazing, beautiful, that is so good, sculpture, art, chess, excellent at creating animations and wow, that's amazing, right? Truly, truly amazing. So my point, right, at this point is less about let's give up our phones, let's delete all apps. Because if it could be done in a second, we would have done. Because it can't be done in a second, so we have not done it till now. And the question is more about maneuvering through the distractions. We know we have the apps. We know there is a distraction. We know what the real life challenges are and how social media and app makes us feel. But we are also extremely aware and educated and literate when it comes to digital media usage, what it does to our mental health, physical health in terms of eyes, your neck hurting, spondylitis, getting some arthritic pain, getting squinty eyes, back pain, neck pain, and also your mental and emotional health. You are aware, right? You are aware. You and me both. When I say you, I'm including me, myself in this conversation also. It doesn't matter, rather I am more guilty. I'm over 15, 20, 15, 11 years older to you all, right? But at this age and stage, when I know how the digital world has taken over, I'm trying to ask myself, can I actually do something to genuinely balance my digital world usage and my real world space? Can I make a genuine, not कि I'll delete and throw my phone and all of that. Nothing extreme. हो सकता था तो करते ना, नहीं हो रहा है तो नहीं किया. Let's be extremely honest with ourselves and realistic. But can I make a genuine balance of doing things that are in the slide or not in the slide, multiple 1,000 things that you mentioned, so that I can have a decent balance between my online world and my offline world? Can I take a minute to think when I go to an app, okay, why am I going to this app at this moment? What is driving me to go to this app? I'm following some XYZ people, right? Why do I follow the people? Do I genuinely get inspired by them? Or am I just envious of them? Or do I genuinely get inspired? And only you can answer that question for yourself. You can sit through 1 million webinars and seminars and workshops and classroom discussions on this topic. But you can genuinely make the difference when you want to make the difference in your life about anything, digital health, AI relation, personal health, and XYZ. Or else, even after attending 1 million workshops, we are all back to square one, doing the same thing we did. Because we are like, yeah, man, another day, another workshop. I don't care. Been there, done that. But if you really think to yourself, hey, I don't feel good and I go to this app, why? Why can't I sit with my feelings and try to think and process it? Why am I not on therapy yet? Have I thought about going to therapy? Do I want to go to therapy and discuss my issues? Do I actually want to sit with the feelings that come up of jealousy, rage, envy? Why do those feelings come up? Have I tried to sit and think for myself rather than jumping to Instagram every moment I feel uncomfortable? Or have I actually taken time to sit with myself? Okay, I know some of you go for therapies. That's very good. Some of you have certain mental health conditions and you would go. But overall, let's try to take a moment to sit with ourselves and our feelings and ask ourselves, especially when you're not feeling good, why can't I sit with myself when I'm not feeling good? And why do I need to jump to an app? What does that app give me that I can't give myself? I know we don't have a culture of mental health. That's extremely evident in our country, in our schools, in our colleges. We don't really have that per se. But can we be the change we're trying to talk about so much? Can you and I do something for ourselves and the people that we talk to? It's not just about preaching and not practicing, right? That's why when I was talking about digital detox, I told you, guilty as charged. I'm on social media apps. I question myself. Why not? There are times when I'm dealing with something extremely heavy and even processing that emotion feels scary. I feel like if I sit with it, I don't know what other issues of my life will get triggered. And I find it easier to then go on that app. But then I immediately check myself and say that, hey, Moitri, no, we don't want to go down that path. We have worked on ourselves enough in therapy session to know better and do better. And when you know better, you ought to do better. It's a service to your body and mind. Giving up apps, deleting apps, throwing the phone, good to hear, difficult to do. But what is good to hear and good to do is a little bit of balance. Okay, from the last 1 week, I'm seeing that my mood is not great and I feel like I'm spending a little more time in Instagram than I would actually like to. From 4 hours, can I come down to 2 hours? Then in a solid day, we will actually have only 30 minutes of Instagram or 20 minutes or not at all, eventually. For the ones who are not on social media app, very good, very good. But for the ones who are on, we can try to reduce slowly and steadily. No one has to change the world in a day. You can't change the world in a day. You can't change yourself in a day. Forget about changing anything else in a day. Can I exercise? If I have never exercised, can I exercise for 10 minutes? And if I have exercised for half an hour, can I do it 45 minutes regularly? Can I focus on my diet? Can I focus on my hobbies? Can I focus on real people in real time, in real settings? No one is telling you to give up digital devices and apps fully. No one is telling that. We are talking about a word called balance. Can I sit with myself when I'm getting a very bad negative feeling from my heart and head and say, okay, Moitri, why are we feeling that way? What has happened? I'm going to try to talk about the emotion loudly to myself. If you're in therapy sessions, great. Your therapist will help you maneuver the feeling and your journey, no matter how difficult. If you're not on therapy yet and you're still taking time to think of it, sit with yourself and say, what am I feeling right now that is making me jump to this app? I'm feeling jealous. Okay, but how is Instagram the answer to my jealousy app? No. Let me try to see if I can be inspired by them, XYZ. And if you're feeling jealous, sit with that jealousy feeling. Ask yourself some questions. Do I actually know that my life is better than their life and XYZ? No. We all know that Instagram people put the best moments of their life. We know that. Yet we can't stop feeling envious and guilty and regretful and jealous. So it's extremely important to ask yourself these questions when different emotions come up and we run to apps. Sit with ourselves and answer the questions for ourselves. That why do I want to go to this app? What can this app give me? Who am I following right now? How does it feel after I follow that person's page? Do I actually feel happy or do I feel jealous and envious and guilty? What is the reason I'm following anyone that I'm following? And what can I do about it? Genuinely sitting with yourself, trying to process your emotions and sitting with the heavy emotions, the not good emotions also, rather than distracting and running away. And if possible, definitely going to therapy and trying to talk about issues is a way forward for everyone involved, genuinely everyone involved. Okay. At this moment, my dear students, I want us to watch this video. Okay. There are two videos of 4 minutes each, but I just want you to watch the first video. And I want you to tell me your thoughts after watching this video. It's a 4 minute video. Please watch this video. I have shared in the link. I have shared in the link, Archie. Can you see now? I have put 3 times. I hope you all can see now. Please watch the video and tell me your thoughts. You can't see it? The link. I have shared the link.
Ma'am, I think you have to change it to everyone instead of hosts and
I am so
panelists.
sorry. I am so sorry. I am genuinely so sorry. I hope you can see now. I'm so sorry, my dear students. It was only for hosts and panelists. I'm so sorry. Hope everyone can see now. 1 minute. Yeah, you can watch this. And after 4 minutes, you can tell me what are your thoughts after watching this video. Okay? Watch it. And after 4 minutes, what is the time right now? It's 4 o'clock. 4, 5, let's have a discussion on this video. Once you all are done watching it, please do share your thoughts because I also have a few thoughts about it. Yeah, exactly. Iram, thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Exactly right. I was shocked. I mean, of course, I had a clue with the way the world is going with AI, but to think that there are parts of kids' brains that would not be used at all because AI is doing everything for them, and we would actually have cognitively, emotionally limited thinking kids because they're not using those parts of their brains for anything. Okay, glad. So I think some teachers, with the way they're introducing AI and balancing the usage of AI into their real world application, that can make a difference. But if AI is doing your thinking, your feeling, your work, then what are you doing as a human is the question to ask. And then we are talking about AI is replacing humans, AI is taking away jobs. AI is taking away humans, forget AI is taking away jobs, is my question. So it's scary. It's scary. Like I saw that video and the child psychiatrist, the child psychologist who was talking that different parts of your brain takes time to develop. You have to use those parts of your brain. That's why they say go out, play with people, have a playtime, go for dinners, go for parties, meet friends, sit with your friend, talk, laugh, cry. Different parts of your brains get activated and your brain develops. पर आप पूरे दिन एक ऐप के साथ हो जो आपसे बात कर रहा है, झगड़ा कर रहा है, वो आपका होमवर्क कर रहा है, आपका ऐसे कर रहा है, सब कुछ वो ही कर रहा है, ऐसे से लेके बातचीत से लेके रोमांस से लेके प्लेटोनिक फ्रेंडशिप. So I just want to understand that the world ahead is scary, but I loved how the teachers are talking about it, right? And how they're trying to actually navigate the difference between healthy and unhealthy usage of AI into the student's life, into the homeworks, into the essays. So many people are submitting essays and LORs and recommendation letters. Is it actually written by teachers or is it written by AI? Can we know for sure? We may not ever know. Now, who is writing your recommendation letter when you're applying to colleges? AI or teachers? Who is checking it? I mean, I don't know, right? Everything seems so scary at this point. And that's why I said that I wanted to know your views on how the world with AI is going to look like. Especially if you have younger siblings who are maybe, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, who are growing up in this extremely digitized world where from ordering one Nimbu also comes from Blinkit to ordering or selecting people on apps also they come. You don't have to go out for anything. You want a person, you want a lemon. Everyone is just coming through apps. So which part of our body, which part of our socialization process, which part of actually talking, learning, acceptance, rejection that we were all growing up with, a prefrontal cortex that takes time to develop when you are by your young adulthood is all gone. Different parts of our brain that we actually use for different work. What's going to happen to that then? Right? Very important, very important, extremely important. I love the thoughts that's coming in. I fully agree with you. I mean, I was first zoned out when I watched the video. even though I knew how AI is taking over, but I'm like, to actually see a video on it and to see kids using it and doing what they're doing, I'm like, shit, like, where are we heading with this? You know, it's scary, interesting, curious. I don't know, put in all the adjectives, right? AI can be used for good things also, absolutely. It depends on how we are making use of it. Everything in the world has good, bad, ugly. Everything. There is no one thing in the world that only has good. But how you and I are navigating that operation is what is the question right now. Right? Later, after the session gets done, you can watch this, my dear students. You can watch this. It's about Gen Alpha. Okay, very interesting Gen Alpha. I've shared this. You can watch it. It's on Gen Alpha. That's also 4 minutes. We have like 10 minutes of our session. And once that gets done, you can actually watch that. And I think you will enjoy it too. I want to come to this slide, which is very important. I know a lot of you may go for therapy. A lot of you have reliable people next to you to talk to understand, but a lot of you may not, right? And as opposed to popular belief, seeking help is an act of courage. It takes a lot to say, I'm not okay, but I want to be okay. I'm not okay here, but I want to be okay here. So for those times when you feel like you want to speak, you want to rant out, you want to vent, but you don't have someone who you think can understand you, be there for you in the way that you want, I hope you can take time to call any of these numbers. I've actually called these numbers and checked with them. Some of them work 24/7, some of them work 9 to 5. Because I really hope you get the help that you need when you need it. The rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide is at an all-time high today. We are losing lives as we speak. The least we can do is help each other get the help they need. And not to have sat in the hindsight कि अरे मुझे पता ही नहीं था वो हुआ उसके साथ, वो तो खुश दिखती थी, she was smiling, she was laughing, because we know people can fake expressions and fake anything and everything. Someone is laughing, someone seems smiling, someone is putting up an amazing picture on Instagram, means nothing. You don't know what is going on inside people's minds. You have no clue at all. They could be sitting next to you, seeming like they're having the time of their life, but they could be severely depressed. And I think we have enough evidence to know that now. पर वो तो हंस रही थी, वो तो खेल रही थी, इंस्टाग्राम में उसका वो पिक्चर आया. I guess we are all over that part of believing what people put and say and what really goes inside their head and hearts. So if you think you need the help or someone you think needs the help, I would request you to reach out, because saying that I'm not okay, I need help is an act of courage and bravery. It takes a lot to say that. And I hope you can get the help you need when you need it. Okay. These are my details. If you're ever in flame, this is where I sit. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's my email ID. You can reach out to me. I'll be very happy to answer questions in the session right now, post session, through email. We can always be in touch. If you're coming to college, we can always meet up in my office over a coffee and discuss anything and everything that interests us. And I would love to help and support you in a way that I can. Right? This is one of my favorite quotes by Aisha Shenoy, who wrote the book To the Bravest Person I Know. That book talks about people's life with mental health challenges, people's lives who have lost people to suicide and other difficulties. It says, and when they said, but you looked okay, I asked them what okay looked like. A lot of times in the hindsight, when we hear of a bad news, we say, but we thought this, we thought that. We didn't know if they were going through a hard life. You can never know anything through people's expression. People can lie their whole life and you may assume something else. And that by now, I think we've all understood that. Be kind and compassionate to yourselves and extend that kindness and compassion to others as much as you possibly can. I know this looks and sounds like very preachy lectures that we write on our essays and on Google and on AI. But as we live life, you will realize how true these cliched things are, because cliche is cliche for a reason. It is cliche because it is tried and tested. When you sit on aeroplanes, they tell you, right? Put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Because if you can't be kind and compassionate to yourself, You cannot be kind and compassionate to somebody else. Right? It's difficult. Kindness is difficult. Being compassionate is difficult, especially in a world today where every moment of our living time we are seeing a bad news, horrific death, and something terrible happening every living second of our existence. And most people are dealing with compassion fatigue. They're tired of being empathetic. They're tired of being sensitive. They're tired of being kind. But little by little is still something, right? Rather than not doing anything at all. I know easier said than done because I'm telling you, I'm telling myself too at the same time. But with AI and not AI and digital detox and addictions, addicted to online spaces and online usage, if we humans really have to be humane in the real sense, I think starting with kindness and compassion to ourselves and extending it to others really makes a difference. And knowing that real people in real time is the real deal. You can have as many social media apps and online personas and games and I don't know what not in online world, but knowing that real people in real world in real time and talking to people, getting to know people face to face is what actually helps you grow as a full-fledged human. No one is telling you to give up and delete and block everything. If you want to do that, great. But an idea of a healthy balance, asking yourself, why am I doing this? What is the need for me to do this? Why do I follow who I follow? How does that make me feel? Do I want to continue feeling this way? If not, what steps can I take to do better? Will help go a long way. Yeah. These are some pictures that I really liked. I use this in my class when I'm teaching students. And yes, it's been such an absolute pleasure being able to speak to you, even though I couldn't see you all. And that's such a sad thing. I love having students around. And like I said, I thrive in offline spaces. Online space is really not my thing. Like I really want to see students have their hands raised, asking questions, debates, discussions. That's amazing. But okay, we can't do that all the time. So online is fine too. I loved seeing you all on your chat boxes, asking questions, being so enthusiastic. And just you all being yourselves. I think I don't know how many weekends we spent like this where one person can see someone, others can't see them, but still talking about a topic that affects all of us in some or the other way, right? And I loved it. I'm sending a heart. Okay, I do this when my class ends. You can ask students who have sat through my classes at Flame. I do this, okay, and I'm sending this heart. I can't see you all, but I hope my heart reaches each and every one of you. You all are so loved. You all are valued. You all are belonged. You all are seen. You all are cherished. And you are truly, truly the future of the country, of the world, of your lives. And I hope you can make decisions that you're proud of. And if not, that saying says, I hope you can come back and take a little detour and do something that actually makes you happy. Okay, sending so much love and hearts and digital detox and peaceful mind and crocheting and hobbies and running and dancing your way. Yeah. Thank you so much, my dear students. Thank you so much. Where is my where is the emoji? I wanted to send a heart emoji. Do I not get to send a heart emoji? Only you all get to send heart emoji. Oh yeah. I got it. 1 minute. I got the heart emoji. It's not fully heart emoji, but you get the drift, right? Gen Z, Gen Alphas, you get the drift. Yeah, you can see. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, my dear students. Thank you for being so enthusiastic and so participative. I loved it. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.